You're listening to Systemic Era Podcast. The failure was designed.
Trump reaping what he sowed. And he can't be surprised if there's blowback analysis based on an article by Adam Lynch. Trump built a violence market, then acted shocked when it turned on him. The source, a panel discussion centered on conservative writer Mona Charen's blunt claim that Trump helped normalize political violence and cannot pretend to be surprised when the culture he cultivated threatens him too. The segment also noted new security concerns around the Supreme Court, including public appeals from Justices Elena Kagan and Coney Barrett for more protection after threats against the court and Barrett's family. Power is not the problem here, it is the engine. The important fact is not that Trump is now afraid. The important fact is that he spent years converting incitement into political capital. He rewarded the language of menace, protected the people who trafficked in it, and turned brutality into a brand asset. That is not random degradation. That is a governing style. When a politician builds power by excusing cruelty, he does not create a clean line between their violence and his violence. He creates a system in which violence becomes ambient, legible, and politically useful. The danger is not confined to one man's body. It spreads through the institutions around him. Security for the powerful, exposure for everyone else. Kagan and Barrett asking Congress for more security funding says something grim about the state of the country. Even the Supreme Court now has to speak the language of personal threat. That is not a theatrical side note. It is a symptom of an order in which political conflict is increasingly processed through intimidation. But the same political world that now asks for protection has spent years treating intimidation as a strategic tool. That is the contradiction. Elites demand insulation after helping normalize the conditions that make insulation necessary. They want the benefits of instability without owning the cost. The Pelosi response was the tell. Charen's reference to the attack on Nancy Pelosi's husband matters because it exposes the moral rot at the center of this politics. The point was not just the assault itself. It was the reaction, a mockery, celebration, the refusal to extend even the bare minimum of human decency to a political enemy's family. That is how violent politics becomes culture. First it is framed as toughness, then it becomes entertainment, then it becomes permission. Once that happens, every outrage is selectively mourned and every victim is ranked according to partisan value. Trump did not invent this alone, but he made it cleaner and more lucrative than it was before. He taught his movement that degrading opponents is not a bug, it is the point. The framing still tries to blunt responsibility. Charen is right about the basic dynamic, but the larger political ecosystem still works hard to misdirect blame. It turns deliberate incitement into tone, polarization, or the culture. Those words are useful because they blur agency. Agency matters. Trump chose to normalize violence. His family chose to mock the Pelosi attack. Republican elites chose over and over to treat that conduct as a tolerable cost of power. None of that is confusion. It is political permission. The same applies to the reverence for fighters that Charen recalled from 2015 and 2016. That language was never morally neutral. It was a license to ignore character, discard guardrails, and keep the dopamine hit of domination. The movement was told it could have power without standards. It got exactly that. The pattern. This is what authoritarian politics looks like in practice, not one dramatic break, but a slow conversion of cruelty into normal procedure. Violence is celebrated when it harms the right target, condemned when it comes back toward the powerful, and always used to justify more security, more polarization, and more control. The lesson is not that Trump is uniquely unlucky. The lesson is that a politics built on humiliation eventually produces a country where everyone important starts buying armor and everyone else is expected to live with the fallout. That is the system. It was built by people who wanted the thrill of lawless power and imagined they could stay above the wreckage. You've been listening to Systemic Error. Thanks to AltaNet for today's article. With it automated voice of Bryce. Thanks for listening.